Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm 43, and I've been working as a librarian at a small public library in the heart of a quiet town for the past 15 years. It's not the most exciting job, but it's peaceful, and I like it that way. I'm the kind of person who enjoys the scent of old books, the soft click of library doors opening, and the calm silence that wraps around me like a warm blanket. It's comfortable. It's predictable. It's been just me and my books for as long as I can remember. I live a simple life. I wake up at 6 a.m. every morning, make my coffee, and watch the sunrise from my small kitchen window. There's something about the sunrise, something so calm, so serene that sets the tone for my day. By 8 a.m., I'm at the library, setting everything up for the day. I've worked here long enough that I know everyone's preferences, from the kids looking for the latest fantasy novels to the elderly patrons who prefer their classic literature. I know the best spots to sit for a quiet read and the exact time when the first rush of visitors arrives. It's a rhythm I've fallen into, and I've come to appreciate the simplicity of it. But even with all the comfort and routine, a part of me feels a little empty. I can't deny that. My husband Mark passed away 5 years ago, and since then it's been just me. I've had my friends, of course, but they're all busy with their own lives, now married with children, or focused on their careers. The days can sometimes feel long, and the nights even longer. But I've learned to fill the silence with books, with the comfort of knowing that the pages will always be there to turn, always there to offer some sort of escape. That Friday evening, as the workday drew to a close, the clouds began to roll in. The air outside grew heavy, thick with the promise of rain. The wind picked up, and I could hear it whistling through the cracks in the library's old windows. The kind of weather that makes you want to stay inside, cozy and warm, with a cup of tea and a good book. But that night there was something different about the rain dot. It wasn't the usual gentle pattering that I was used to. This was intense, like the heavens had opened up all at once. The rain crashed against the library's windows with such force that it made the whole building tremble. The usual evening calm was replaced by a buzzing tension in the air. The lights flickered once, and for a brief moment, I thought the power might go out. But it didn't, and as the evening continued, I found myself drawn to the window, staring out at the downpour. The storm outside mirrored the restlessness I felt inside, as if the world was urging me to break free from the same old routine, to step outside the walls I built around myself. I glanced at the clock. 5:30 p.m. My shift was ending soon. I gathered my things, ready to head home for a quiet evening alone. But just as I was about to lock the back door, I heard the distinct jingle of the library's front bell. Someone had entered. I turned around, a little startled. There, standing in the doorway, was a man. He was drenched, his clothes clinging to his body, as though he'd been caught in the middle of a torrential downpour. I could see the outline of his features, dark hair, a strong jawline, and the kind of presence that immediately drew your attention. He wasn't a regular at the library, and I didn't recognize him. But there was something familiar about him. I couldn't place it, but I knew he wasn't just another visitor. He was different. For a moment I stood frozen, unsure of what to do. The storm outside was too loud for him to have heard me, and he didn't seem to notice that I was there. He simply stood in the doorway, looking around at the rows of bookshelves like he was seeing the place for the first time. His gaze eventually settled on me, and he took a step forward, his eyes locking with mine. "Excuse me," he said, his voice deep, rich, and full of warmth. "Is it all right if I stay here for a while? The rain ... It's really coming down out." There, I blinked, caught off guard by his request. I never had anyone come into the library during after hours, especially not a stranger. But there was something in his voice, something calm and polite, That made me hesitate for just a second. Of course, I replied, forcing a smile. I'm just finishing up for the night, but you're welcome to wait here until it clears. He gave me a grateful smile, stepping further inside. The air shifted when he walked past me, like a charge in the room, and I had to shake off the strange sensation that crept up my spine. Thank you, he said again, as he moved towards a corner of the library by the windows. He didn't take a book or sit down right away. Instead, he stood there for a while, gazing out at the storm. The rain was coming down in sheets now, the kind of rain that made you feel like you were inside a washing machine. I went back to my desk to finish my final tasks, but my mind kept drifting to him. I couldn't explain it, but something about him had stirred something inside me. It wasn't just his appearance or his voice, it was his presence. It was like he brought with him a sense of calm that contrasted with the storm outside, and yet there was something electric in the air. It was as if we were both suspended in the moment, our lives temporarily intersecting by chance, yet somehow bound together by something bigger. After what seemed like an eternity, I finally finished my work. I glanced at the clock again, 6:45 p.m. I was ready to leave, and it seemed like the rain was starting to let up. But as I grabbed my bag, I caught a movement from the corner of my eye. He was still standing there, staring out the window. I wondered if he'd been waiting for me to leave so he could do the same. But before I could say anything, he turned to me, a small smile playing on his lips. I didn't catch your name, he said, his voice gentle. Sarah, I replied, feeling a little flustered, but trying to keep my composure. And you? Jack, he said, taking a step closer. Thanks again for letting me stay here. It's been a while since I've been in a place like this. It's peaceful. I nodded, unsure of what to say next. I wasn't used to conversations with strangers, especially not ones that felt so easy. I guess it's not always this calm, I said, trying to make a joke out of the awkwardness. But yeah, it's a quiet place. I'm sure you don't find much peace in the city. He chuckled, the sound deep and warm. I don't, he agreed. I live in the city, and it's always rush, rush, rush. I needed a moment to just breathe. You know? I nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. For a brief moment, we stood there, caught in the tension between us. And then, just as the storm outside began to quiet, he said something that I wasn't expecting. You ever feel like you're just waiting for something to happen? Like life's moving forward without you? The question hung in the air, and I wasn't sure how to respond. I looked at him, and for a brief second, I wondered if I had been the one asking that question all along. I don't know, I said slowly, trying to gather my thoughts. Maybe sometimes. But what can you do? Life keeps moving. Jack didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked out the window once more, his face thoughtful. Maybe life moves forward, but sometimes we have to make it happen, he said quietly. Just a thought. And with that, he left, disappearing into the night, leaving me standing there, feeling a strange mix of confusion and anticipation. What had just happened? Was I imagining things? Or had that moment meant something more? Then I realized, as I locked up the library, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. I wasn't sure if it was the storm or the man, but I knew one thing for sure. This rainy night had started something I couldn't explain. And for the first time in a long time, I was eager to find out where it would lead. The next few days felt like I was walking through a fog. I couldn't stop thinking about Jack, the stranger who had come into my life like a whirlwind. The way he looked at me, the way he made me feel like something had shifted in me. Something I hadn't even realized was dormant. It wasn't just his presence that lingered. It was his words, the questions he asked, the way he seemed to see right through me. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just a brief interaction, a fleeting moment in a quiet town. But every time I walked through the library doors, every time I sat at my desk surrounded by books, I found my thoughts drifting back to that rainy evening. What did he mean by life moving forward without you? Was it just casual conversation? Or had he been talking about something deeper? Was he talking about me? That Saturday, I found myself standing at the window of my small apartment, watching the rain begin to fall again. The sound of it against the window reminded me of Jack of that night, and I felt a strange pull in my chest. Maybe it was because the rain always had a way of making everything feel more intense, more alive. It had been years since I'd felt this kind of emotion stir within me, like something was about to change, but I wasn't sure what. And maybe that was what scared me the most. By Monday, I had tried to convince myself that it was just the storm playing tricks on my emotions. Maybe Jack was just another passing stranger who would soon fade into the background of my life. A fleeting memory like the rain itself. But even as I walked into the library that morning, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed inside me. And then, as if the universe had conspired to make me face it, Jack walked into the library again. This time, there was no hesitation in his step, no uncertainty. He walked straight up to the desk where I was arranging a stack of books and greeted me with a smile that seemed to radiate warmth. There was something different about him today. He looked more confident, more sure of himself. The look in his eyes, the way he moved, was different than the quiet stranger from before. "Sarah," he said, his voice deep and calm. "I thought I'd find you here." I smiled, though I couldn't help the flutter in my chest. "Hi, Jack. It's good to see you again." "Good to see you too," he replied, settling into the chair across from my desk. He didn't seem like he was just passing through this time. It felt like he had made a deliberate decision to come back to engage again. "I've been thinking about what you said the other night," Jack began, leaning back in his chair, his eyes never leaving mine. "About life moving forward, but you don't always feel like you're moving with it." I wasn't sure how to respond. The words he said seemed to echo in my mind, louder now. Had he been thinking about me? About that conversation? I had to admit, I had been thinking about him too, probably more than I should have. "I think I get what you mean," I said slowly, trying to make sense of it all. Sometimes life becomes a routine. We get comfortable. And comfortable doesn't always mean happy, does it? "No, it doesn't," Jack agreed, his voice quiet but firm. "I've been there. It's easy to get stuck. But sometimes, Sarah, we need something or someone to pull us out of that loop." I didn't say anything right away. His words struck me deeply. For the first time in years, I was starting to realize that my life had become predictable, almost mechanical. I'd buried the dreams I once had, the things I thought I'd accomplish when I was younger. Instead, I had allowed myself to be content with the routine, with the quiet of my life. And yet, there was a part of me that longed for something more. Something real. But could I let go of the comfort? Could I risk the safety I had built around myself for the chance of something unknown, something unpredictable? Jack's eyes were still locked on mine, waiting for my response, as if he could read my thoughts. And maybe he could. Maybe he could see the hesitation, the fear, the uncertainty that I couldn't quite put into words. "You're not alone in feeling this way," he said gently. "We all get caught up in the safety of our routines. That sometimes it takes a leap, just one leap, to remind you what it feels like to truly live." His words hung in the air like a challenge. The truth was, I didn't know what I was supposed to do with them. I had lived my life in a certain way for so long, but it was hard to imagine anything different. But as I sat there, staring at Jack, I realized that maybe it wasn't about making a drastic change all at once. Maybe it was about opening myself up to new possibilities, about being willing to embrace the unknown. The air between us shifted, and I felt something, a tension, a spark. It wasn't just the conversation. It was the way Jack made me feel. He made me feel like I wasn't just Sarah, the quiet librarian in a small town. He made me feel like I mattered, like I was someone worth knowing. I've been thinking about something else, Jack said, breaking the silence between us. I want to show you something. It's just a small thing, but I think it'll help you see things in a different light. I raised an eyebrow, curious. What is it? He smiled, a knowing look in his eyes. I can't tell you yet, but trust me. It's something that will change the way you look at everything. It's something that will help you break free from this routine. I didn't know why, but I felt like I had to trust him. Maybe it was because, for the first time in so long, I felt like someone saw me, really saw me. Not just as the librarian behind the desk, but as someone who had dreams, desires, and a life worth living. All right, I said softly. I trust you. Jack stood, a grin spreading across his face. Good. I'll pick you up at 7 o'clock tonight. Be ready for something you won't forget. And just like that, he was gone, leaving me sitting at my desk, heart racing, wondering what he had in mind. I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into, but I knew one thing, whatever it was, felt like the beginning of something important. The storm inside me, the one I'd been ignoring for years, was finally starting to break. And maybe, just maybe, Jack was the one to help me face it. That evening, as the clock ticked closer to 7 o'clock, I couldn't shake the anticipation in my chest. For the first time in a long time, I felt alive. And I didn't know where it would lead, but I was willing to find out. The day passed in a haze. Every minute seemed to drag on, and every tick of the clock seemed louder than the one before it. I couldn't stop thinking about what Jack had said to me earlier. How he'd made me feel. His words had stirred something. Inside of me, a yearning I hadn't recognized in years. And now I was waiting for him. Waiting for whatever it was that he had planned. A small part of me was anxious, unsure of what was coming, but the other part, the part that hadn't felt, alive in so long, was excited. I couldn't deny it. There was something about Jack, something that pulled me in, and I was ready to see where it led. As the evening approached, I hurried home, trying to distract myself by doing mundane tasks, anything to calm my nerves. But nothing seemed to work. I found myself checking the clock every few minutes, my heart beating a little faster each time. I tried to act casual, but the excitement bubbled up inside me. Impossible to ignore. By 6:45 p.m., I had changed into something. Simple but comfortable, nothing too fancy, but enough to show that I'd made an effort. As I looked in the mirror, I couldn't help but notice the way the woman looking back at me seemed a little different. There was a sparkle in her eyes, a glint of something unknown, something new. I hadn't felt this way in a long time, dare I say never. I'd always been the quiet, reserved librarian. But tonight felt different. Tonight, I was about to step outside of my routine, outside of my comfort zone. A soft knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. It was Jack. I opened the door, and there he stood, looking like something out of a dream. It was Jack. I opened the door, and there he stood, looking like something out of a dream. The rain from earlier had subsided, leaving the world outside calm and quiet, but there was still a palpable tension in the air. Jack smiled at me, that same knowing, confident smile that always made my heart flutter. He was dressed casually, his dark hair slightly damp from the rain, but his presence, his energy filled the space between us, making the air feel charged. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked, his eyes glinting mischievously. I hesitated for only a second, before nodding, the anticipation making my heart race. "I think so." He stepped forward, and for a moment, we simply stood there, looking at each other. The silence between us wasn't awkward, though. It was charged, like something was building, like we were both on the edge of something big, something unknown. I had no idea what he had planned, but in that moment, I realized something. No matter what happened next, this feeling was worth it. "Let's go then," Jack said, extending his arm, as if offering a path to something new, something beyond what either of us had ever known. I took his arm, and together, we walked out into the cool evening air. The world seemed to open up around us, as if the universe itself was giving us space to breathe, to explore. We didn't speak much during the drive, just small talk, the usual polite exchanges. But there was an undercurrent, a tension between us, an electric charge that neither of us could deny. As we drove through the quiet streets of the town, I couldn't help but feel like we were heading somewhere important. It wasn't just about the destination, it was about what was happening between us. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how much I had been holding back, how much of myself I had locked away for years, afraid to step out of my comfort zone, afraid to take a risk. But with Jack, it felt different. With Jack, I felt like I could finally breathe, like I could finally let go of the weight that had been holding me down for so long. We pulled up to a small park on the outskirts of town, one I hadn't visited in years. The park was empty, the pathways damp from the rain, the trees swaying gently in the breeze. Jack parked the car and turned to me with a smile. "Come on," he said softly, as if inviting me into something sacred. "I want to show you something." I followed him, my heart pounding in my chest. We walked through the park, the path illuminated by the soft glow of streetlights. There was something peaceful about it, something calming. The world seemed quieter. Here, the air fresher. The tension that had built up between us began to dissolve, replaced by something warmer, something more intimate. We reached a small bench by the lake, a quiet spot, hidden from the rest of the world. Jack sat down and patted the space next to him, motioning for me to join him. I hesitated for a moment, unsure of what was about to unfold. But then I sat down beside him, close enough that I could feel his warmth radiating against the cool evening air. "It's beautiful here," I said, looking out at the calm water. The rain had stopped, but the surface of the lake was still rippling slightly, as if the storm's remnants were still lingering. It felt like a reflection of what was happening inside me, calm, but unsettled. Peaceful, but on the verge of something. Jack nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. "I thought you'd like it here," he said quietly. "It's a place I come to when I need to clear my head." I glanced at him, noticing the intensity in his gaze. There was something in his eyes, something that made my breath catch. It wasn't just a physical attraction, though that was undeniably there. It was something deeper, something that seemed to pull us together, something unspoken. "You've changed my perspective already, Sarah," Jack said, his voice soft but firm. "You've made me realize that life isn't just about going through the motions. It's about embracing the unknown. It's about taking risks." His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I felt a knot form in my stomach as I turned to face him. I hadn't realized how much I had been holding back until now. I had been afraid to take risks, afraid to step out of my comfortable life. But Jack had opened something in me, something I didn't even know existed. "I don't know what I'm doing," I said softly, my voice barely above a whisper. "I've spent so many years playing it safe. I've been so afraid to Take chances. But with you ... You don't have to have all the answers, Jack interrupted gently, his hand reaching out to rest on mine. Sometimes, Sarah, you just have to let go and trust that things will work out. Trust yourself. Trust us. His touch sent a wave of warmth through me, and in that moment, I knew. He was right. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know where this was going or what it meant. But I knew that I wanted to be there, in that moment, with him. I wanted to take that leap, even if it meant facing the unknown. The tension between us had shifted, replaced by something deeper, more real. And as the night unfolded, we sat there together in the quiet park, the world outside fading away. The storm had passed, but something inside of me had changed forever. The rain had washed away the layers of fear, the hesitations that had held me back for so long. And with Jack, I felt like I was finally stepping into the life I was meant to. Live. The one I had been afraid to reach for. It wasn't just the rain that had changed everything that night. It was the way he had made me feel alive again. And as I looked at him, his eyes reflecting the same uncertainty and hope that I felt, inside, I realized that sometimes the storm, no matter how intense, can be the beginning of something beautiful.